Let's talk about goals. You work with individuals who were required to perform at the highest level with major stakes, a lot of pressure, right? I'm talking about CEOs and COOs, executives that have the entire company, right? They're responsible for the success, for their shareholders, for their employees, you name it. My thought was, well, anything that applies to them applies to all of us in terms of setting goals, overcoming obstacles, following through. How do you follow through when you're not motivated, right? For most of us, if we're not motivated, nobody really sees that we didn't do what we were supposed to do today. But the executive doesn't have that luxury of just, taking a week off and going and sulking or procrastinating, right? They've got accountability at the highest level. That's the angle that I really wanted to take is what have you found working with top performers, with executives when it comes to setting goals, creating a vision? Like, let's start there.
It's interesting that you brought this up because I'm going to even slightly switch it to I think, even tie in closer to everybody who's listening. In the book that we wrote, The Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs, one of the chapters that we worked on was the vivid vision idea for a business or for a person to have a vision for their life. My wife and I just actually created our vivid vision for our relationship as a couple and what Cameron and Ashley as a couple look like, act like, and feel like December 31st, 2025. So we leaned out into the future and we described our fitness, our relationship, our mindfulness, what we're doing with friends, travel, with family, what we're doing with our spirituality. We described our sexuality. We literally described the future state of our business. And what it's done is it's given us some things to work towards, some things to look forward to. It's stretched us. And I think, as you mentioned, these CEOs that have to find motivation, one of the easiest way to find motivation is to set bigger goals, create a vision or a vivid vision that's a few years out that stretches you again. And in the absence of that, it can kind of become very routine. Life can get boring, or life can get routine, or your business can get routine because you don't have motivation. No one's going to come to you as an adult and give you goals anymore. Your parents aren't raising you. So I think that may be a good starting point to talk about is that vivid vision process and how businesses and people can use that.
Our mutual friend, Steve Sims' new book, Go for Stupid, it was how do you set these big, ridiculous goals? So I'd love to kind of follow up on that and hear your perspective on how to create a vivid vision, because that is one of your keynote, that's one of your expertise.
Yeah. So the basic idea is to not worry about how your vision is going to come true. So let's say that I describe my eating habits, right? I'm eating healthy meals. I have a chef that comes in a couple of times a month to cook for us. We actually live globally now. We sold our homes in the US, sold our homes in Canada, sold our cars. We literally live out of backpacks. We've been to 14 countries in the last 5 months.
Nice.
So we're spending a lot of time on the road, but how do you find healthy food? How do you find the local grocers that are healthy? How do you get wellness? How do we find personal trainers? So when we described our fitness, when we described our relationship with food, when we described me as an example, my relationship with alcohol, that now I only drink on Thursday and Friday nights and only if I worked out that day.
Nice.
Because I'm on the road, I could be eating in a restaurant 7 nights a week. I can't have a glass of wine with dinner every night because I'm not really in a restaurant. I'm now just eating. So what we did is we leaned out into the future and started describing what our life looked like. The vivid vision idea becomes a 4 or 5 page written description of what your personal life or your business or what your relationships look like 3 years in the future. So that if you can lean out that 3 years and describe it, not how it happened, but describe what it looks like, then you as a person or you as a couple or you as some of your friends or you as a coach can start figuring out the plan to make each of those things come true. If anywhere past 3 years is too far out there and it feels like there's no real urgency to get around to it if it's so far. And if it's 1 year out, it's too similar to today. So the idea is to kind of stretch yourself out 3 years and then think about every aspect of your life or your business in that way. You commit it to paper. Maybe you get a copywriter to help you polish it and make it pop off the page so it really resonates well. And then you just figure out how to make that come true. So that's been something that we've been working on both as a couple. So I have one for us as our married couple. I have a vivid vision for me as a person, just as me as Cameron, as a dad and a husband and a friend. And then I have one for my business for the COO Alliance. So the vivid vision becomes like the picture on the front of the jigsaw puzzle box of your life, or the picture on the front of the jigsaw puzzle of your business or your relationship. So then you can start figuring out, how do I make parts of this start to come true? Most of the people that are listening, have either built a home or done a renovation, or maybe they've been around people. They've seen a home being built.
Yeah.
So If you got the best contractor in Austin, you hired a great contractor and you said, here's a whole bunch of money, go build my dream home. And you left and came back in a year later, they'll have built you a beautiful home, but it's not going to look anything like what you wanted because you didn't describe it in enough detail. You need to describe the vision of your home in so much detail that the contractor can come up with the plans or the blueprints to make your vision come true.
You said something a few minutes ago, don't worry about how you're going to achieve it. I think not knowing how someone's going to achieve more than they've achieved up until this point is what stops people from even considering achieving more, right? It's like, I've only achieved what I've achieved and that's all I know how to achieve. So I can't really see much more than that. So talk about setting a vision and then not knowing how you're going to achieve it.
So if you're the homeowner, and you're building or you're going to get a home built, most of the homeowners don't know how to do electrical. We don't know how to do plumbing. We don't know how to hang drywall. I don't know how to build cabinets. I don't know how to do flooring. I know what I want my home to look like, but I don't know how to build it. As long as I can describe what I want built and I have the money and the time, a contractor can figure out how to build it. They'll create the plans. They'll get all the employees to come in. The employees will follow the plans. The employees will build my dream home without ever having to talk to me. So it's the same as designing your personal life. If you can describe what you want your fitness to look like, you can then start figuring out later or get people to help you figure out later how to make that come true, right? It's kind of like our friends Dan Sullivan and Ben Hardy said in their book, Who Not How. It becomes a who problem, not a how problem. You don't have to worry about how to do it. It's who can you get to help you? Maybe what book can you read that can help you? What friends can help you? What accountability partners can you get that can help you? It's why having that vivid vision for our marriage is really powerful because we can help each other. We can hold each other accountable. We can help. We're calling it our bucket list life. We're helping each other cross off things on our bucket list, but we're also helping hold people accountable. I'm right now 43 pounds lighter than I was 11 years ago.
Wow.
And it's because I have this woman who I'm in love with who cares about my fitness level and I don't eat crappy food and I get exercise. Like today, I worked out in the gym. I went into a cryo deep freeze and I went into a high pressure kind of recovery pod tank. 2 days from now, I'm going into a circuit training with a fitness trainer. Like I'm really focusing on fitness as part of me.
That's where it starts. And that's why it's important, because such an obstacle to creating a vision is us stopping ourselves before we start because we don't know how we're going to achieve these big, audacious goals. I have a friend he used to say, when you commit to something, the how reveals itself.
I think it was in Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, where he talked about conceive, believe, and achieve.
Yeah.
And if you have the vision for what you're doing and you believe in that vision, you'll figure out how to make it come true. So when I'm saying don't worry about how, I'm not saying forever. I'm just saying while you're writing the vivid vision, don't worry about how you're going to do it. But if it feels right now, you got to be realistic. Like if you can't walk around the block, you're not going to run a 3.5 hour marathon in 3 years. It isn't going to happen. But you could at least say in 3 years, I'm going to be running a 10K, or in 3 years, I'm going to be walking 10 kilometers 3 days a week. You have to have some reality check in what your vivid vision is, right? And that's why it's also good to only go 3 years out. You don't want to stretch 20 or 30 because then it's a dream.
There's no sense of urgency. Well, you mentioned that the running thing, I decided I wanted to run an ultra marathon. I had never run more than a mile. And that was when it was required in high school PE class. And I hated running. The idea of how, I had no idea. I can't run a mile. How am I going to run 50? It was putting it in writing, setting a date, and then committing publicly, right? I thought, well, if I give my word to other people that I'm going to run this race to raise money for charity, my own ego is not going to let me look like a total jerk and a fraud, just leveraging that integrity. Also, just like, hey, I said I'm going to do something, now I've got to do it. Let's talk about obstacles. To me, this is one of the most important, most relevant, most crucial, and yet under-discussed aspects of achieving goals, which is anticipating the obstacles that are likely, if not inevitable. My thought on this is, if you're not aware of an obstacle that is likely to show up on your path to achieving a goal, that obstacle will more than likely, it will derail you or it will bring your efforts to a halt completely. But if you can anticipate the obstacle and you go, oh, okay, so when I'm moving towards this goal, things aren't going to go perfectly. It's not going to be a clear path. I'm going to have internal obstacles like fear and self-doubt and laziness. I might have external obstacles where like things aren't happening as fast as I want. I encounter a challenge. Someone doesn't respond the way I needed them to. And now I got to start, back 3 steps, so on and so forth. So I want to ask you, working with these executives, these CEOs, what are the obstacles that you see prevent people from achieving their goals? And then we can get into how to overcome them.
When it comes to obstacles, there's a concept called the black swan. And the idea of the black swan is, I think it's 1 out of every 1,000 swans that are born is black. All the other swans are white, but there is this genetic thing that happens, and it's predictable that 1 out of every roughly 1,000 will be black. So you just know something weird is going to happen. Well, in business or in life, something weird, something unforeseen, some obstacle is going to pop up. And when you least expect it, boom, there it is. Part of it is to just not get all ruffled when it happens. It's kind of to go, oops, there it is. So we were building an auto body chain years ago. In the US, it's known as Gerber Auto Collision. In Canada, it's called Boyd Auto Body. My partner, who's the CEO of the company, Terry, used to get pissed off every morning by this guy, Greg. So Terry wrote on his to-do list one day, "Get pissed off by Greg." And then he walked in the morning and Greg upset him, and Terry's like, "Well, I got that done."
Nice.
And it was a mindset that he allowed himself to no longer get upset that this guy was upsetting him. He's like, "I expected it. It happened. It didn't bug me. I moved on."
Yep.
That's kind of the way that you have to get around obstacles as well. There is no straight line from where you are to where you're going. It's a bit of a bob and weave. It's a bit of a make it up as you go. But as long as you're pointing in that general direction of that vivid vision of your goals, as long as you're working towards that, you can kind of meander your way through. Much like driving a car. We've all been driving a car and gotten to a point where it says, "Oh, detour." Well, we don't get all upset when we just follow the detour signs, and about a half mile later, we're back on the road again.
Well, we might get a little upset, to be fair.
Right. But the reality is there's nothing to really worry about, because it's just telling you where to go, and you're going to be back on your path again. So the being upset part doesn't serve us at all. The getting frustrated part doesn't serve us at all.
Yep.
When we were building College Pro Painters, we used to say that we hired people that were very high in tenacity. And tenacity was the dog-like work ethic to get over, under, or around any obstacle put in one's path. That was a core fundamental trait that we hired for. I remember hiring Kimball Musk, Elon's brother, in 1993. And that was one of the core things. Kimball was very strong in leadership, very high in tenacity, very high in introspection. And I tell you, in all the businesses Kimball's built since 1993, he doesn't let obstacles get in his way. He's like, "Oops, there's an obstacle. I expected it. How can I get over, under, or around it? If I can't figure it out, who can help me? Let's keep going."
And by overcoming the obstacle, you now have a new capacity to overcome future obstacles.
Right. It builds that muscle, right? It builds that strength. There's going to be challenges. It's how we mentally approach them, and how can we leverage our network and the ideas that are out there. We used to have to be the smartest guy in the room. Now we don't. Now we have to know the smart people around us and work and collaborate together. How
do top performers overcome those obstacles that all of us face, right? Many of them internally. Here's the biggest one I get. I was talking to my COO, Tiffany, who you've interviewed on your podcast. The other day, she mentioned we were just planning. We're doing these things. I think this will be our 3rd month, called the Miracle Morning Community Monthly Gathering. And it's a Zoom meeting with a few hundred Miracle Morning community members where we all get together and connect. And we lead them through a practice, and I teach something, and then they go into breakout rooms, so on and so forth. And we were planning, for that. And I said, "Tiffany, your ear is to the ground in terms of," she kind of is our customer service person right now. You get 100 emails a day. What are people saying that they need? And she said, "I feel like what I hear most is, Hal, I don't feel motivated." And a lot of it is, I'm so overwhelmed, not only with personal life, but I feel like collectively, our collective consciousness, ever since 2020, our collective consciousness, what is out of our control has been just thrust into our faces, whether it's a pandemic or it's politics or it's other people or that which is out of our control, which makes us feel out of control when we focus on it. It's just constantly in front of us. So this overwhelm is not just our individual overwhelm, which is like, I have so many things to focus on. I got my marriage and my kids and this and that, and I'm trying to achieve these goals. But it's just this collective overwhelm of life in general as a member of the human race feels overwhelming. So if somebody doesn't feel motivated, if they're struggling in their personal lives, what can we learn from top performers on how to overcome those obstacles and achieve our goals?
One of the big ones is that the top performers realize they can't solve the world's problems. So they actually don't worry about the world's problems. They don't think about all of the angst that everybody else is going through. They worry about what they can control, right? Control the controllables. What's the prayer? There's a prayer on that. It's like,
the
God,
serenity prayer.
The serenity prayer. God, give me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. There's a huge part of that we have to bring into the business world. The reality is, in our business, there's some stuff that we can change. There's some stuff that we can't. Don't stress. Work on the stuff you can change. The next part of that is the high performers realize they don't have to be the smartest person in the room. They have to know the smart people in the room. You know, the school system, at least the one I grew up in, really hurt me. Because I grew up, I'm 56. I grew up in an era where we had to memorize everything. You know, I'd go to the library to grab the one book to write my essay on, and it was checked out. So I had to change the entire thesis for my essay. Now kids just go on Google and they, you know, it's all there, right? So now you don't have to memorize. You have to know how to find information. You have to know how to access it. You have to collaborate. I think the high performers realize that it's not a how do I do this? It's who can help me. My dad told me that years ago. He said, you'll never be smart enough to figure out all the business problems on your own. Follow what the smart companies are doing and just do what they're doing, and it'll get you most of the way there.
So what does that look like for someone listening? If in the business context, they're either a solopreneur, so they've got no team to lean on, or someone listening, you know, half our audience, they're not in business at all, right? So that they're going, okay, well, my goal is to kind of like you talked about, Cam, I want to lose 10 pounds and be in, you know, better health.
I always go back to the basics. If somebody said to me, I want to have a more productive day, I want to have a better life, I'd say, well, are you practicing the morning savers, right? Are you doing the silence, affirmation, visualization, exercise, reading, scribing? No, I'm not. Well, then don't ask me any more questions. Do the savers. When you're doing that for 6 weeks, then I'll give you the next tip. Years ago, we had a franchisee at 1-800-GOT-JUNK call me up, and he wanted the next marketing kind of secret silver bullet. And I said, are you parking all of your trucks in high visibility? No, but give me the next tip. Are you putting signs out there? No, but give me the next tip. Are you putting flyers out around every job? No, but I'm like, look, until you're doing the 3 basic things, I'm not giving you any more tools. Those 3 things work. And by the way, if there's something better, we'll tell you later. All of these people that are reading another book, reading another book, reading another book, and not doing the stuff that the best books are telling you to do, you're your own worst problem. The smart people are actually taking the advice they get and they're using it. The smart people are taking the cheat sheets and they're using them, the shortcuts. They're just following those hacks because they work. There's no secret for how I lost weight. I stopped eating crappy food. I stopped eating everything that was on my plate. I'd stop eating when I was full. I'm drinking tons of water constantly. I'm not drinking anywhere near as much as I used to drink. It's pretty basic. Put healthy food in your body. Don't eat as much food and get some exercise.
So let's talk about that then, because obstacle to that, the reality is we know what we need to do more often than not. It's that we don't do what we know we need to do. And so whether it's a lack of discipline or a lack of motivation, how do you get yourself to do what you need to do? Or top performers you've worked with, how do you get yourself to do what you need to do when you don't feel like it? Because I think that's the biggest thing holding a lot of people back.
The one is that I talked about this in the Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs, is if I have a bad morning and I don't follow all the savers and I don't follow my morning routine, I don't stop. I wake up tomorrow and I try to have a better tomorrow than I had this morning. If I all of a sudden have a bad day and I order the fries instead of the salad, and I have a protein shake when I should have had a juice, or I have juice when I should have had water, or whatever, I don't get exercise and I have a glass, I don't quit. I just shoot. I shouldn't have done that. And I wake up tomorrow and I try again. I kind of give myself the benefit of the doubt and then I try again. But I'm always driving towards a goal. And I tell people what my goals are. I share them. So I kind of have this built-in accountability group.
Summing up what you said today, you've got to create the vivid vision. You know what you're working towards. Don't be surprised by obstacles. Expect them. And then honestly, do the savers. I can't argue with that logic, right? Which is it's the fundamentals. It's the basics that work in our society. We've been conditioned to think that we need to find a magic bullet, a secret, or something new. When the reality is, what has created success for people for the last 100 years, the fundamentals, that daily morning practice, right? Setting yourself up for success with the clarity of your vision, knowing what you need to do and following through. That's the recipe for success. It isn't magic. It isn't a secret.
If you're hungry and you need a snack, go get some carrots and a glass of water instead of going to get a bag of chips and a Coke.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple.
It's pretty simple.
It's just caring about your goals and caring about yourself and caring about that vision. And then, as you mentioned, surrounding yourself with other people that are driving for that success too, right?
Yeah, and that can be your significant other, like you talked about your wife supporting you and vice versa. And it could be it could be a friend, it could be your accountability group, it could be your Miracle Morning community. I mean, infinitely anyone. And it can even be a Google search, right? If you mentioned don't be the smartest person in the room, right? I always say that we're all one Google search away from any solution to any problem that we have or any answer to any question that we have.
Exactly.
We met at Genius Network. I think, wasn't that where we met and had the conversation at that meeting in Arizona?
Yeah. You were walking out of the bathroom. I was walking to the bathroom and you kind of stopped me in the hallway and asked. I was like, hell yeah, I would love to be like, I just trusted my intuition because the opportunity to co-author was aligned with the vision of where I was going as well, right? It was helping entrepreneurs, helping people with their businesses. So it was a hell yeah.
And I love that you just told that behind the scenes story, right? Isn't that funny? That the way things happen, right? We co-authored a book because we happened to cross paths in the hall. May or may not have happened without that chance meeting of me leaving the bathroom and you heading into the bathroom. So we actually owe the bathroom a debt of gratitude.
It's also another good reason to put yourself in the rooms with other high performing people, even if it's in your city and going to meetups in your city or going to coffees with the city or, going and joining a running club. Like, start hanging out with people that are driving forward in their lives in some way, shape, or form, and that'll make a better you as well.
Surrounding yourself with like-minded people or people that have the mindset that you want that maybe you don't even have yet, but that you want to be around those people. And that's the thing is, I personally am antisocial, so I have to get out of my comfort zone. I'm going to this mastermind in Colorado next month. I don't want to go. I'd prefer to be at home with my family, which I do most of the time, but it's a group of people that I realize these are the type of people that I want to be around. And so I'm going to get out of my comfort zone and I'm going to invest a little money and I'm going to make that trip, and who knows what will come out of it. But as you said, you don't know if you don't take that chance, and putting yourself around people that are like you and that are headed in the direction that you want to go can make all the difference in the world.